This is the Noon News from Montana's news leader.
Good afternoon, and thanks so much for tuning in this Friday. I'm Aja Goare. A major development this hour in the investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 U.S. presidential election. Special investigator Robert Mueller announces an indictment today against 16 Russian nationals and entities. 13 Russian nationals and 3 Russian entities are charged with conspiracy to defraud the U.S. 3 defendants are charged with conspiracy to commit wire fraud and bank fraud, and 5 defendants are charged with aggravated identity theft. The indictment alleges some of the defendants posed as Americans without revealing their Russian association in order to communicate with, quote, unwitting individuals associated with the Trump campaign. These actions were allegedly an effort to seek to coordinate political activities. President Trump has yet to respond to the indictment, but has previously called the allegations of Russian meddling a witch hunt. Meanwhile, President Trump is headed to Florida today to his Mar-a-Lago resort, but it's unclear when he will visit the community affected by the deadly school shooting. Today, the first funeral was held for one of the 17 people killed. CBS's Kenneth Craig has more.
Mourners gathered at a North Lauderdale funeral chapel to say their goodbyes to Alyssa Al-Hadef. The 14-year-old is one of 17 people killed in a mass shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School on Valentine's Day. Yesterday, her mother charged President Trump with making sure it never happens again.
President Trump, you say, what can you do? You can stop the guns from getting into these children's hands.
The message was similar at last night's vigil, where 8,000 people gathered. Fred Gutenberg lost his daughter, Jamie.
I sent her to school yesterday. She was supposed to be safe.
Democratic Senator Bill Nelson was at the high school today and wants assault weapons off the streets.
Maybe these students speaking out so boldly as they have on national TV, maybe this will be the turning point because, in fact, enough is enough.
President Trump is coming to his Mar-a-Lago estate this weekend, about 40 miles north of here. He plans to meet with families whose lives have been shattered.
Authorities say 19-year-old Nicholas Cruz confessed to the shooting using an AR-15, which he bought legally.
Obviously, he shouldn't have had that weapon and shouldn't have been able to do the kinds of things that he did.
Authorities say Cruz was in the school for only 6 minutes, shooting people on the first and second floors. On the third floor, he tried to shoot through a window at students fleeing, but the safety glass didn't shatter. Kenneth Craig, CBS News, Parkland, Florida.
And 9 people do remain hospitalized. Here in Montana, a Great Falls teacher is accused of racking up thousands of dollars on someone else's credit card. Deborah Thomas, a teacher at Whittier Elementary School, pleaded not guilty Thursday in Cascade County District Court to charges of identity theft and forgery. According to court documents, the victim helped Thomas get a loan to purchase a house in 2016. That's when Thomas suggested making direct payments, so the victim gave Thomas her personal information. The victim later learned Thomas obtained a credit card linked to the victim's account and charged more than $8,000. Thomas was put on administrative leave from her teaching position upon her arrest. A Trout Creek couple ordered to pay nearly $14,000 in fines in what state officials call one of the worst cases of wildlife baiting they've ever seen. Derek Ricks and his wife Cheryl were faced with 67 wildlife citations in 2016, including illegally hunting game animals over bait and feeding game animals. Wildlife officials say the couple used bait to kill white-tailed bucks and a black bear and then did not report the harvesting of the bear to FWP. Authorities determined several hundred pounds of feed was placed at a single feeder. Illegal kills also include a bull elk and mule deer buck from 2012 to 2015. More than 360 mail ballots were not counted in Montana's 2017 special congressional election due to non-matching signatures. Secretary of State Corey Stapleton and others now believe they found an answer to the problem. Stapleton caused a political stir last year when he said 363 mail ballots in the May 25th special election appeared to be signed by the wrong person and could be acts of voter misconduct. Now, mail ballots with mismatched signatures will be reported to his office and the Commissioner of Political Practices after local election officials try to resolve the conflict. Commissioner of Political Practices Jeff Mangan says in rare cases his office may advise on whether to prosecute someone for intentionally casting a false vote. Stapleton says while incidents of misused ballots are extremely rare, they can make a difference in close contests. The fate of the so-called Dreamers is still unclear after the Senate failed to find a proposal to solve the issue that can pass the Senate, and time is running out to get a deal done. CBS's Mo Lange has more.
The Senate tried and tried.
The motion is not agreed to,
But failed to pass 4 separate immigration proposals Thursday.
This does not have to be the end of our efforts to resolve these matters.
Even a bill drafted by a bipartisan group of senators failed to get the 60 votes needed to pass. It would have funded the president's border wall while providing a path to citizenship for the undocumented immigrants who were brought to the country illegally as children.
This provides $25 billion for a border security system. Number 2, it addresses the issue of DACA. It takes care of 1.8 million young people who want to be citizens in the United States 10 to 12 years from now.
The White House threatened to veto the bill because it doesn't stop family-based migration or end the visa lottery program. Democrats say that veto threat killed its chances of passing.
President Trump created this problem by terminating the DACA program last August. Since that decision, President Trump has stood in the way of every single proposal that could become law.
The White House says it's Democrats who are standing in the way. Administration officials say they'll now focus on a House immigration proposal that addresses the issues President Trump wants solved. The president tweeted, "Cannot believe how badly DACA recipients have been treated by the Democrats. Totally abandoned. Republicans are still working hard." The House bill, sponsored by Virginia Republican Bob Goodlatte, is even further right than the Republican-backed bill in the Senate, which garnered only 39 votes. Mola Lengi, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
The Hill is reporting that GOP lawmakers have told them the Goodlatte bill doesn't have enough support to pass the House as of now. Well, Havre is seeing a record amount of snow this season, tallying 70 inches already. That's nearly double Havre's season average. Snow is piled in the middle of the streets and is waist deep in some places. Snowplow and sand truck drivers are doing their best to clear the roads, but it is still a tough battle for them and the other drivers. And Havre's seeing a lot, but you know what, Ed, you're telling me that everyone around the state is seeing a lot of snow today.
That's right. In fact, Billings has already got more than 70 inches of snow so far this season, and we've got more on the region as we start getting to the next couple of days. Already seeing our next band of snow move across the region. You can see that on Doppler radar here. And that initial wave moving through today is just the beginning of more problems through the weekend. Snow will be really heavy in areas of western Montana by the time we start looking into towards tomorrow, and then Saturday night into Sunday, it starts to spread across the eastern plains. That'll take it out. I've got the clock out to 10:30 a.m. Sunday, but it doesn't end there. It keeps going right on into Monday as well. Come back, we'll take a closer look at the weekend forecast in just a few minutes.
It never does seem to end. Thanks, Ed. The Sprague fire burned the historic Sperry Chalet in Glacier National Park last summer, but new aerial imagery shows the building is enduring the harsh winter weather. An overflight funded by the Glacier National Park Conservancy shows the chalet is standing strong against winter's assault. The walls show no signs of damage, and more importantly, there's been no avalanches near the damaged dormitory. There will be 2 more overflights to check for damage this spring. Before we get to break, the Lewis and Clark Library is celebrating its 150th anniversary this week. The library was the first of its kind in the state and actually opened before Montana became a territory. Fire destroyed the library in 1874, but was quickly reestablished. Library patrons heard these details and more from a local historian over a Lunch and Learn special event. The library director says many more anniversary celebrations will take place throughout the year. Still ahead on the new news, reports of shots fired put the Seattle area college on lockdown today. We have the details next. But first, Ed has our weather forecast. Stay with us.
You're watching MTN News with Aja Goare.